Okay. Well, hopefully the ones you did understand you got right, and then maybe you lucked out on the other ones. Okay. All right, go ahead and take out your notes. We're going to continue on with the United States Constitution. Looking at Article 2, Section 1, Presidential Basics, and the presidency. Lots of good stuff here. Okay, we did compensation last time, right? How much does the president get paid? 400K, yeah. But if you added up all the value of all the other component parts, it ends up being a lot. Yeah, I mean, to have a plane fly you here, there, everywhere, and so forth, which is a lot, yeah, which is a lot. And, it's a big deal. All right, now, oath of office. The president's oath of office. Do you see that in the handout? Have the handout in front of you, because that way you'll be able to go along. Ding, 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 ding. The oath of office takes place at an event. We actually had it on January 20th of this year. It's the inauguration. I've actually got it queued up. You're going to be able to watch the inauguration that occurred 4 years ago. This is the inauguration. It's kind of interesting. There you have, this was from 4 years ago. You got the president. We have right here the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court administering the oath of office. The First Lady, family, and there's the Vice President. And if you were looking, and you'll actually be able to see, because they have over here, you've got the previous president, the previous vice presidents, so Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and some others, all up there. Obviously, this is 4 years ago, because now, what would be different? Vera, what would be different about the most recent inauguration as opposed to that one? It's actually social distance, and then, of course, like masks for all the people who are not doing like speaking roles and so forth. And Trump wasn't there. Okay? Which person was at both of them? Pence was at both. That's true. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden was, and Obama was. I don't want to say, I'll have to look again, because I've got it when I get the video and so forth queued up. I think that Hillary Clinton was, although I'm not positive. Yes, she was, because former presidents. And Bill Clinton was there. And how many former presidents were at the most recent one? All the living ones, except for Jimmy Carter's health is not good. And then, of course, Donald Trump, by that time, was in Florida. Okay? Put this down. No religious test required in the oath of office. We'll see more when we get further into the Constitution, the First Amendment, as far as like trying to create sort of a separation between religion and government. So no requirement. Having said that, what do you suppose President Trump there has his hand on? Exactly. So he can have that in there, and if he wants to have, so help me God or something like that reference in there, you can have that in there too. But it's not officially required. Write this down. The country back in those days, when the Constitution was written, mostly Christian, but there's a lot of variety of different denominations. You got Catholics and you got Quakers, you got a variety of different Protestant groups. And so they're like, well, let's not make it officially, one particular Christian one. So they just sort of said, no religious requirement or no religious test in order to actually have the job. Does that make sense? So if somebody wants to have a component of religion in their life and include that and so forth, they can, but it's not required. Yeah. Absolutely. You just have to do the oath of office. Listen very carefully to the oath of office. You're going to swear to protect, defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and so forth. It's not too long. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was one of the basis of certainly the last impeachment charges, that allegation that President Trump was not defending the Constitution and how things played out before and on January 6th. Okay, so we check that out. Here is the oath of office from 2017. Take a look here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. We got a different angle of it. You can see the President Obama. There's Biden. There's Clinton. There is Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate back then and even still. And then behind this, where does it take place? At the Capitol building on the west side facing toward the Washington Monument. Okay, they build a special thing. This looks all old and fancy and so forth, but it actually is a specially constructed thing just for the inauguration. If you were to go there today, you would see that there were like steps leading down and so forth. They added a whole bunch of construction so that they could support a lot of people there. And if you were to look this year, you would see like Bernie Sanders sitting with his mittens on, and so forth. That was one of the most iconic images, I think, from the whole inauguration. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, he's just like, anyway, yeah, Bernie. It's just like so many. Yeah. Anyway, all right, so let's check this out. So we got the president's family coming up.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
That's the presidential tune. Hail to the chief. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, there you go. All right, then kisses and kisses and kisses. All right, so how many times has Donald Trump taken the oath of office? Once, yep. How many times has Joe Biden taken the oath of office up on that setting? 3 times is correct. Ooh, Noah. What do you mean 3 times? Correct. Yeah, that's the answer. There you go. Okay. All right. So, what's that? I don't have his steamed up or queued up there. I had that one, that cue. Basically, what is Biden going to say that's any different? Nothing. I think it's exactly the same. I think he has the "So help me God" in there as well. That's not a required part, but like I say, I believe every single president has added that as a component because personally, those men so far have a religious belief and they want help from God in order to be able to carry out that function. But it's not a requirement in the Constitution. Okay? Question, comment? All right, let's go on to the next. Yep, here we go. Section 2. These are the presidential powers. Okay? Time traveling. They can leap tall buildings. Just kidding. Nope. Let's go through the various different presidential powers. One thing you can certainly write down is that the president has a lot of power. How long does the president have this power? All the way up until the last moment. So some of these things President Trump was exercising literally right up until the day that he left office, including the power of pardoning.
So let's say, what would happen like if the president was literally like taking the oath right then and there and like he got like bombed?
Interesting question. Did we talk about that last time about like the football? Did we talk about that? We did. So like the nuclear launch codes?
Like quickly finish their oath and then they'd be in charge?
Yeah. As soon as they take the oath, they're in charge. So actually, here's a little bit of a trick question. Raise your hand if you can tell me, who was the president when Kamala Harris took the oath of office?
Donald Trump.
Trump. Okay. How long was she the vice president under Trump? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they go from the vice president straight then to the president's oath of office. Yes?
I think that, like, to go off of his question, kind of, like, if they were in the middle of that, and, like, that was happening during 9/11, he would miss the call.
Oh my gosh, you guys come up with so many different scenarios and so forth. It's a mess. The president, 9/11, it was clearly George W. Bush, okay? Clearly George W. Bush. It was a little crazy on January 6th because, and in the days thereafter, there was sort of a feeling that like Pence sort of kind of took over some of the sort of things because, anyway, but it was, yeah, I mean, constitutionally, Trump had that position. Oh, here we got a Biden picture. I think this actually was when he was hanging out as vice president and so forth. Commander-in-Chief, write this down. Commander-in-Chief is a very important function. The president is the civilian leader of the military. So it is the top position in the military. Very, very important. Recap. Anna, who has the power to declare war? Congress. Who has the power to fund wars? Congress. Of course, the president signs on to that. This is one of those shared powers, but it makes sense. Make sure you write this down. It makes sense to have, because sometimes in a military, particularly if you're talking about a military operation, like go get Osama bin Laden. I mean, is Congress going to be a part of that equation? No, that's going to be a top secret, presidential authorized, go take out Osama bin Laden, the guy who was behind the 9/11 attacks. Okay? Efficiency. You need to have a commander at the top, civilian commander who is under him, all of the United States military. You can even put this down and so forth. If you're in the military and that's your boss, you're not supposed to criticize your boss. It's actually quite clear in the rules. You don't criticize your boss. So in the military, can you vote? Absolutely. And that's a secret ballot anyway. Okay? If you're out of the military, can you criticize the current commander-in-chief? Yes. So when you see, like on some news program, and you get somebody who was formerly in the military criticizing decisions and so forth of a president, you'll see their name, and it'll say, like, United States Army General RET, period, retired. Okay? So they are, like, no longer under the command. They're not being insubordinate. They are giving their opinion. Okay? Does that make sense? All right? Shall we move on? Boom. Executive orders. All right. We actually touched on this a little bit before. The president is the chief executive, so the president is in charge of potentially all of the people who work in the executive branch of the United States federal government. And that's most people. That's like all the people in the military, all the people in the Forest Service, all the people in the post office, all the people in all the various different component parts of the United States, government, except for the courts and Congress. Everybody else is in the executive branch. And who's the ultimate boss? The president. But practically, is the president going to be involved in like day-to-day administration of like postal delivery? No. Most people who are in those positions don't have to deal with have the president like breathing down on them. They've got their bosses, and most of them are in civil service. You can write that down. Most people in the United States government are like lifetime employee type things, right? It's not like, oh, the president just got changed, I lose my job. It was kind of like that, a long time ago, but it hasn't been that way for quite some time. Okay? Now, I want you to put this down. Sometimes when Congress passes a law, they leave an opportunity for a president to act. Like, for example, there's a thing called the Antiquities Law that was passed a long time ago. And it allows presidents to look and go, well, there's some federal land. We're going to do this with the federal land, like make it into like a park or preserve it or something. That was how the law was written. So it gives that president a fair amount of power. Okay? But now let's get to this issue. What if the president just gets frustrated and like, oh my gosh, Congress, will you pass a bill on immigration, for example? That's a good example. Will you pass a law on immigration that I like, that I can sign so that we can fix some of the problems that are dealing with immigration in our country? When was the last time we've had like a really major comprehensive immigration bill to deal with all the various different challenges? We haven't. I mean, not during Trump's time, not during Obama's time, not during Bush's time. I want to say it might even go back to like Reagan's time, as far as a really big comprehensive one. It's such a contentious issue, it's hard to get Republicans and Democrats and so forth in the House and the Senate and the president to all agree on something. So therefore, Anna, can the president just take out a piece of paper and a pen and like do an executive order making new immigration law? No. And that's why I showed you that one little clip from SNL, remember that? Because it looked like Obama was trying to do that. An executive order cannot go beyond the power that is given to the president under the law. You can't just make up laws if that's not within your power. I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that. And by the way, how long is an executive order going to last? One of the things that President Biden has been very busy over the last month is undoing executive orders that Trump did. What did Trump do during his first month? Undid a bunch of executive orders that Obama did. Okay?
So, I have a couple questions. First, since Trump is out, what are we gonna do with the wall? Are we just gonna leave what they did?
The wall belongs to the United States of America, and belongs to the United States of America. I mean, it is what it is what it is.
So because it's not complete, will they just leave what they had and like not turn it
Oh,
in?
oh yeah, and it's not going to be torn down. Yeah, no, it's like it's more complete in some places, and frankly, to be honest, the amount of wall that Trump wanted to add to or reinforce or extend along the border, it needed to be funded by Congress. And did he get the funding from Congress? Pretty much no. So I mean, sometimes he was shifting some money from, like, I don't know, defense spending or border security and going, hey, let's do wall construction with that money, right? It's kind of like if your parents give you some money to go to the store to buy item X. And you're like, well, I got some extra money. And you buy item Y and Z, and you're like, well, anyway, so I'll let you guys figure that one out. But executive orders, that's a very important power, but I think you guys picked up on it already because we did discuss. It doesn't necessarily extend beyond the time of the president.
Yeah, so don't presidents sign executive orders which are almost like compromised, and then when their term is over, then the next president signs what they want into...
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. So, what would be... Here's one that I've seen a number of times go back and forth and back and forth. President's commander-in-chief. Is he ultimately kind of responsible for how things go in military hospitals? Yeah. So could the president say there will be abortion services available at military hospitals? Sure, he's the commander-in-chief, he can say that. Could the next president change that around? Yeah, here's one that's interesting. Try this one. President Obama, he was the one who said that if you were openly homosexual in the military, it didn't matter. And that was a change from many, many years where it said that you couldn't be openly homosexual in the military because presidents were looking and going, that doesn't really do for cohesion. But that's the commander-in-chief's decision. Boom, that's what he said. Question, did Trump change that? No, I don't think he did. No, I don't think he did. No. Yeah, no, I mean, it was like there were maybe some changes and shaves around the edge, but the biggest policy itself, I don't believe, changed completely. If you go all the way back to President Harry Truman, number 33, he was the first president to desegregate the military. Up until that point, there were black units and there were white units in the military. And Truman was like, that's stupid. And he just changed it. And this was well before the whole Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement you're going to be learning more about in time. He could do that because, boom, he's the president of the United States, commander-in-chief. And no president after him ever changed that. They're like, yeah, this works.
So because you're commander-in-chief, they could just basically sign something off for the military without having it go through several layers of Congress?
Very good. I think you've got that right. The commander-in-chief position is very, very important, and it is a singular thing. That's why some people were a little nervous. In the last days of the Trump administration, there were some folks that were like, and top commanders were literally talking to each other going, all right, if Trump orders the military to do something that just doesn't really seem right, don't really do it. It's just I mean, they were concerned. I mean, what in the Constitution right now would protect you? No, what would protect, what would stop a president from carrying out some crazy, hint, crazy order to have the military do something? We covered it last time. What amendment to the Constitution would allow for intervention of somebody else, a group of people, to say, I'm sorry, President, you don't have that power anymore? Yep, 25th Amendment, okay? Because then the vice president, majority of the cabinet, would say that president is disabled, basically take that president's power away, okay? Does that make sense? And I think that was the kind of dynamic, to be honest, after January 6th, when people are like, Pence, you need to go 25th Amendment and take the power of Trump away because he's going to use the military and do some crazy things. And he's like, I'm just going to watch and see. Did Trump order the military to do crazy things? No. But I'll tell you, there were some people in the military like, they're just kind of slowing things down. Have you ever gotten a direct order from a parent and slowly responded in such a way that maybe it was irrelevant after a while? You're like, oh, you wanted me to go to bed? Oh, I didn't hear you. Yeah, you're just like, oh, I'm going through a tunnel. I can't hear you. Anyway, so I mean, there's those kinds of things. I mean, and that happens in real life. You know, sometimes the president issues some order and it just sort of like filters down and doesn't really quite get through there. Next power, pardon power. Write this down. This is very important. This is one of those ones that a lot of times people wait really until the end of a president's term in office to see what the president's going to do as far as pardoning. Make sure you get these details very, very specific. Are you ready? The power of a president to pardon. This is kind of controversial because some people are like, wow, presidents have a lot of, I mean, man, they can make a lot of stuff just go away. First, you ready? Obviously, if the president has that power, nobody can undo it. Congress can't vote to undo a pardon. The courts can't undo a pardon. It's in the Constitution. The president has it, so it's a really sweet deal. Although some people look and go, wow, that has the potential of being abused. I'll give you some examples. Next thing, it has to do with a federal criminal situation, okay? As opposed to like state or local. So, here's an example. Could a president pardon somebody who, let's say, was convicted and is in federal prison? And when they're pardoned, I mean literally right there, get out of jail. It's gone. And they can do various different levels. Sometimes they can like get you out of jail, so you're not doing the jail time anymore, but the charge is still there, still on your record. Okay? Sometimes like the person is dead and it's still on their record and the family's like, could we like make that just go away? They can do that too. So there's a variety of things that they can do. But can they pardon somebody who is in prison on a state charge? And most people, make a note of this, most people who are in criminal trouble in the United States, it's state criminal trouble. You know, murder, arson, burglary, robbery, rape, stuff like that. You cannot pardon on state stuff. If you had state stuff, you'd have to look at the state law. Some states give their governors the power to pardon. Many of them don't necessarily.
But, if I get, say, like, you got, like, on the sex offender, like, registry list,
Depends on if it was a state one. If it's state, he can't touch it.
but, like, basically...
And most of those are going to be state sex offender lists.
But basically, if you, like, are on, like, a sex offender list, and if they wanted, they could pardon you from it, depending on whether...
Who's they?
The president.
President can't. If it's not a federal thing, president has nothing to do with it. You got that? Have you noticed this? Because like, who has the power in Idaho to declare like a state emergency? Oh, governor. Yeah, I mean the governor Little has all kinds of different things. Who has the power to determine whether North Star goes back to school like full time after spring break? School board, yeah. Not the governor, not the president. So all these people are coming up to Biden going, hey, when are you going to open up the schools in different parts of the country? And, you know, the quick answer is he doesn't have that authority. Trump didn't have that authority. Biden doesn't have that authority. A lot of that authority is spread out. And sometimes it's not even held by, like, the state authorities. It's held, like here, school board. And our school board's been watching and looking at seeing what other school boards are doing so that, you know, we're not too far afield. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. All right. Interesting question, because the president pardoned himself. Oh, write that question down. That's an interesting one. I don't know what that clear answer is. There was all kinds of constitutional discussion and debate I don't think the answer is completely clear, but we do know this one. Are you ready? The pardon deals with previous stuff. You understand that? So Michael, if a president's going to pardon you, it can't be for stuff you might do in the future. It's for stuff you did in the past. Now, what if you haven't even been charged with a crime yet? Can the president pardon you even before you're charged with a crime having to do with that stuff? Yes. Probably the best example of that is when Richard Nixon, President Nixon, resigned from office, he was facing some pretty serious potential federal criminal charges. They all went away. Whew. How?
He resigned.
He resigned, so what? But he's facing potential criminal charges. He could have ended up in prison. His vice president couldn't do anything until
He was president.
exactly Ford pardoned Nixon. It was very controversial. There were a lot of people who were like, "Wow, Nixon should have gone to jail. I'm never going to vote for you, Ford." And they almost won election in 1976. But there were a number of people who were like, "No, Nixon should have paid the price and gone to prison." And Ford was like, "Can we just move past that?" Right? For covering up information about the break-in by people associated with his campaign into the Democratic National Headquarters.
Oh.
Sometimes it's not the bad event, it's the cover-up trying to get to that. So if you've ever done something like naughty, and your parents asked you about it, and you lied, and you tried to hide all the information, guess what you're going to be in the most trouble for? The lying and trying to cover it up. Yeah. So, if it's kind of like, wow, that's pretty clear I did that. I would like, in my honest, I confess. And then you smile and hope that you don't get punished too bad. So anyway. Okay, you got that? So anything that could happen, even if it hasn't been charged yet, or if they are charging you, or if you've been charged and found guilty, and if you're sitting in prison, the president can pardon you for all those different things, as long as it's federal, okay? But not for future stuff, and not for stuff state and local. And question mark about whether they can pardon themselves. Did President Trump pardon his kids who could have faced potential federal charges? No, and it was really interesting. I was watching this. The feeling was, if you pardon them, it looks as though they have done something wrong and therefore need a pardon. So he took the chance. I don't know, we'll see how it all plays out and so forth, if there is anything. But we'll get to this later. I mean, if you're charged with a crime, does that mean you're guilty? No. You got a right to a trial and all kinds of stuff, but at the end of the trial, if you're convicted, you could go to jail. So, got that? One of the most important positions. Put this down too. One thing that often happens is presidents wait until the end of their time in office to do a whole bunch of pardons. Trump did that, Obama did that, Bush did that, Clinton did that, and sometimes, so it's like if you do something that's kind of controversial, are people going to vote you out of office because you pardoned somebody that really shouldn't have been pardoned? Nope, they can't touch you. Probably the one that really got my goat was President Clinton. He pardoned some guy who was over in Switzerland. He was facing federal charges and fled the country. And I think his ex-wife contributed a whole bunch of money to the Bill Clinton Presidential Library Fund. And that looks a little seedy. I mean, seriously, giving money to somebody, a library fund that eventually has the power to pardon anyway.
Which one pardoned his brother? Which president pardoned his brother?
I think brother? I'm not sure which one. That might have been Clinton, I think, pardoned his brother-in-law.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, anyway. So, pardon power. Got that? Questions? All right. Executive agreement versus treaty. All right, here we go. Treaties. Write this down. Treaties are agreements between the United States and other countries. They're very important. It could be like a security treaty, like we're military allies, or an economic treaty, or an extradition treaty. You got bad guys that need to come to our country. You've got bad guys who will go to your country. Lots of different treaties between countries. Got that? I want you to be very clear on this, because we're going to introduce a little wrinkle in here called executive agreement. And executive agreements are
In the country.
agreements between two countries.
What?
It's the same thing.
It's almost the same thing.
Oh.
Oh, it's because you have to front of it.
Listen carefully. I want you to write this down. If a president signs a treaty with another country, whatever that other country used to make it binding on itself, I don't know, that's up to that country. But what makes a treaty binding on the United States year after year after year after year, even beyond the time of that president? I will tell you what, you ready to write this down? When the president takes that treaty, calls it a treaty, sends it over to the Senate, write that down, the Senate, United States Senate, and they debate it, and they vote. And if they vote 2/3 in favor, that treaty is binding on the United States of America. Understand that? Very important. So does the next president have to follow that treaty? Yeah. Because it was submitted by the previous president to the Senate, and once the Senate was like, seal of approval, 2/3 vote, it's binding on the United States of America.
Executive agreement.
Or not. Executive agreement, I think, is going to be easy for you to remember because it sounds kind of like an executive order. Okay? And it's only going to last as long as the president is in power. Unless the next president wants to keep it, and they do that sometimes. But here's the deal. Usually, that piece of paper that the president signs with another country, I mean, if it's got a lot of popularity, get it done. Call it a treaty. Get it approved in the Senate. When would the president maybe not send it over to the Senate to get the 2/3 vote on it? And maybe the president might not get the 2/3 vote. I'll give you a good example. You can write this one down, because this is a good example of this idea. During President Obama's presidency, he signed an agreement with the country of Iran. Iran, you don't know much about Iran, they've got a very interesting government, and we've been at odds with that country for a long time. Right? They overtook our embassy in 1979 when I was in high school, and they took our embassy personnel hostage for like 444 days. That's not very nice. It's really bad. So we've had tension with Iran for a long time. Oh, and by the way, they're also developing a nuclear weapons program. Ooh.
Oh,
And they support terrorism and things like that. Yeah, oh yeah. One of the guys, one of the generals that like involved in some of the Iranians supporting terrorist activities against the United States forces and other things like that, he was hanging out, I think he was visiting Iraq, like during the Trump administration, and we put a he's dead. And Iran was like, whoa, you can't do that. And Trump's like, well, you know, I'm commander-in-chief, and that guy is and he was involved in terrorism and stuff. So anyway, but during the Barack Obama administration, Obama and the Iranians and others made a deal, and the Iranians agreed not to develop nuclear weapons. And for our part, the United States agreed to release money that the Iranian government had in various different banks, and so they could get that money back. Well, some people, mostly Republicans, looked at that deal and said, I don't think the Iranians are going to be held accountable. I think they might cheat. I think they might evade inspection. And so those Republicans are like, I'm not going to vote to support that as a treaty. So did Obama send it over to the Senate as a treaty? Yep. So how long was that agreement in effect?
8 years.
Only for the time that Obama was president. What did Trump do when he came into office? He said, that is no longer in effect.
oh my gosh, seriously?
Yes, no, that is no longer in effect because we don't think that you are allowing proper inspections to see if you actually are trying to develop nuclear weapons. And it looks like the Biden is working now to try and bring something back that had existed like during the Obama administration. But do you understand the difference between an executive agreement and a treaty now? Which one is more strong and ironclad?
Treaty.
Very good.
Well,
Okay? Yeah. Well, yeah, because otherwise you need 2/3 of the vote to get rid of the treaty. Well, next time we'll get to the cabinet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Who are all those people?
Those were Trump's cabinet at one point.
No, I
I would
know.
say probably in the early stages.
I know that, but like, what are their names?
Why you have to look it up? I don't think I can recommend them.
I've never seen any of
there's
those.
2 that I recommend, Donald Trump and Mike Pence.
Yeah, Mike Pence is right there.
I would
Yeah, he's right there. That's the only two that I recognize. No one else.
This is the former governor of Texas. There's Nikki Haley, who's ambassador to the United Nations. But I think, I want to say that's like during the first 2 years.